It happened in the blink of an eye. One moment, the Toronto Blue Jays were standing tall, polished and confident, talking quietly about October baseball. The next, the floor gave way beneath them. Welcome back to the Blue Jays Report, and before we dive headfirst into this unfolding chaos, make sure you like the video, share it with fellow fans, and subscribe if you haven't already. We're chasing 1,000 subscribers, and what's coming next in Blue Jays land is something you won't want to miss. Less than 24 hours was all it took for this season's narrative to flip completely on its head. The optimism, the careful planning, the sense that everything was lining up just right, all of it shattered by two brutal injury updates that sent shockwaves straight through the front office. Anthony Santander, the bat brought in to stabilize and intimidate the middle of the order, is suddenly gone for 5 to 6 months, possibly more. That's not an inconvenience. That's a gaping hole ripped straight through the heart of the lineup, a loss that reshapes not just opening day, but the entire rhythm of the season. And just as the dust began to rise from that blow, another one followed. Shane Bieber, the arm meant to anchor the rotation and calm the waters every 5th day, is now dealing with forearm fatigue. Those two words are enough to make any general manager feel physically ill. Forearm issues don't whisper, they threaten, they linger, they turn certainty into guesswork, and suddenly the pitching depth that once looked luxurious feels alarmingly thin. This is where the story takes a turn, because when the roster cracked, Ross Atkins didn't retreat into silence. He stepped forward, and in doing so, revealed just how serious this situation really is. Atkins admitted there isn't a single moment when the Blue Jays aren't thinking about additions, whether through free agency or trade, on both the pitching and offensive fronts. No corporate fog, no deflection, just urgency, raw and unmistakable. Only days ago, the rotation looked like a strength bordering on excess. Now, with Bowden Francis lost for the year and Bieber's timeline clouded, that illusion has evaporated. You're suddenly leaning heavily on Dylan Cease and Kevin Gausman. A strong pairing, yes, but not the overpowering foundation this team envisioned. Behind them sits uncertainty, and with uncertainty comes pressure, both on arms and on the clubhouse itself. That pressure is already beginning to show. Whispers around Jose Barrios have grown louder, with reports of tension and unresolved feelings stemming from the World Series. Manager John Schneider insists bridges have been rebuilt, but trust, once questioned, doesn't magically restore itself overnight. In a season already wobbling, any hint of distraction feels dangerous. Which is why one name keeps forcing its way into the conversation: Chris Bassitt. Durable, dependable, and respected, Bassitt represents stability in human form. He eats innings, absorbs pressure, and carries himself like a professional who understands the grind. The fact he remains unsigned feels less like coincidence and more like an opportunity screaming to be taken. Even former Blue Jay Ricky Romero has publicly urged the club to make the call, and it's hard to argue against the logic. But Bassitt isn't the only veteran shadow hovering over this moment. There's also Max Scherzer, a name that still carries weight long before he ever picks up a baseball. Scherzer wouldn't be here to throw 200 innings. He'd be here to teach, to challenge, to raise standards simply by existing in the same room. He's the sort of presence that turns young pitchers into professionals and professionals into competitors. In a season already asking hard questions, that kind of leadership feels priceless. The offensive side of this crisis may be even more unforgiving. Without Santander, the lineup suddenly feels lighter, easier to navigate. The burden shifts quickly and heavily, and reliance on unproven or limited bats is a dangerous game in the American League East. Depth becomes necessity, not luxury, and internal solutions only stretch so far before reality intervenes. What makes all of this so jarring is how promising the winter felt. Smart moves, clear direction, and a sense that the Blue Jays were finally aligning talent with timing. Now, adversity has arrived early and without mercy. Yet baseball has always been a sport that reveals character under pressure, and this moment will define the Atkins era more than any carefully worded press release ever could. The foundation is still there. The stars remain capable of brilliance, but championships aren't built on hope. They're built on completeness. Over the next few weeks, every phone call, every negotiation, every calculated risk will matter. The Blue Jays can't afford to blink. So now it's your turn. If you want to see Chris Bassett in a Blue Jays uniform, hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me which move must happen first. And make sure you subscribe to the Blue Jays Report, because this season hasn't even started yet, and it's already turning into a roller coaster. One thing is certain, Ross Atkins knows the clock is ticking, and this story is only just beginning.